Hello, my name is Tyrone Whitby, and welcome to this edition of Short Talk. And it's mainly about short sales. Some of you may be aware that I am a nationally recognized expert on the subject of short sales. Now, I've often been asked the question, what is the difference between a short sale and a foreclosure? Great question. Well, typically in a short sale situation, you have a seller who is still the owner of a property, but they're in a situation where typically they owe more on the property than they could sell the property for, which is typically a lower amount. And in that situation, the seller would have to get the bank to agree to allow them to sell the property for less than what they owe in a short sale situation. There can be no monies remitted to the seller in a short sale situation. So basically they're selling the property and signing it over to the new buyers, and they're not receiving proceeds typically at the sale of a short sale. Now, on the other hand, on an REO, well, in many cases, a bank REO could be a failed short sale. Someone that attempted a short sale and perhaps they weren't successful, and ultimately the property wound up going to a foreclosure sale. Now, there's a difference in timing in terms of a short sale and a bank foreclosure. Because in a short sale situation, though that bank has to approve the sale, and that process can be anywhere from, if you had a great one, if you were lucky, I'll throw out this number and say 45 days, but I wouldn't count on that. You're typically looking at 90 days plus. It could be as much as 6 months, 9 months, a year. It all depends on who are the lien holders on the seller's note. Now, in a situation with a bank foreclosure, the bank has already foreclosed on the property. They've gone through the foreclosure process, and the bank is now the actual owner of the property. One thing to keep in mind now, I often have people that really don't realize that foreclosure is not an event. Foreclosure is a process whereby the lien holder actually gets legal title to the property through conducting a foreclosure sale. Now, after the lender has control of the property and they are the owners of the property, they then typically retain a real estate company to actually give them a BPO, which I'm quite sure they've had done earlier. And a BPO stands for Broker's Price Opinion. It's like a CMA, which is a competitive market analysis, and it's not necessarily an appraisal because, of course, you have to be a licensed appraiser to have an appraisal. Okay, but moving forward, once they have control of the property, the real estate agent will then put the home on the market for sale. Typically, the thing that the real estate agent needs to do is to market the property, attract the buyer as quickly as possible. Once the buyer is actually found and a contract is ratified, then that buyer can go to settlement as soon as that buyer can get their financing in place. So you can obviously see that there is a difference in terms of the amount of time for a short sale on one hand and a bank REO on the other hand. Now it all depends on, are you a buyer for a short sale, or perhaps you are an agent that's listening to this broadcast. Now, if you are a buyer, the most difficult thing is the long period of time that you may have to wait on a short sale, and there's no guarantee that your offer will be accepted by the short sale lender. Or you can have a situation where perhaps the person who's your seller, the bank decides that they want to modify their loan and give them better terms to keep them in the property, even though you have a pending offer of sale on that property. So short sales do have some pitfalls. They also have some positives. Because typically when you purchase a short sale, you're typically purchasing the property at pretty much anywhere from, I'd say, about 15 to 20% below market as a general rule of thumb. Okay? Now, on a bank situation with a bank REO, typically you're purchasing those properties below market as well. And in the short sale situation, most of those properties are sold in as-is condition. So you could be purchasing a property that you may have to do some fix-up to that property. Many bank REOs are sold in as-is condition. However, there's some banks that are willing to actually make repairs to the property. So I would say you have to make a decision if you are a buyer as to what is your risk tolerance. Are you someone that's a risk taker, or are you someone that's a little more conservative? And how soon do you need to actually occupy a property? And what monies do you have available to you in terms of being able to close the transaction? So keep these things in mind before you purchase and write a contract of sale. The other thing that I would definitely caution you is to make sure that if you're working with a real estate agent, especially in a short sale situation, is that you work with an agent that is trained and skilled and is a short sale specialist if you're going to have them write an offer for you. Because I've seen many times that some people feel that because a real estate agent is an agent, that they know how to do all aspects of real estate. Short sales are a specialized area in the marketplace today. And as I travel around the country and do various workshops and train real estate agents on how to help sellers and buyers in short sale situations, I find that many agents are not very well versed in the subject of short sales. Not everyone can do this. It would be just like you going to a doctor and you say you're going to go to a general practitioner, and perhaps what you have is you have a heart ailment, or perhaps you have a possible brain tumor. Well, not all doctors specialize in brain tumors or in heart defects. So you would want a specialist in the field, and that's extremely important with short sales, extremely. So make sure you ask the agent for some references. Ask them for a list of the short sales that they've actually closed and settled on. Ask them what banks have they actually been done short sale transactions with in the past. So make sure that you're getting excellent representation. If you are a real estate agent, what we're seeing in our marketplace, and I don't think it's tremendously different around the country, that anywhere from, I'd say, 60 to 80% of the inventory that we see in our area is either short sale or REO. And if you're a real estate agent and you are reluctant to get involved in those areas of expertise, I think there'll be a dramatic decrease in your business. So get up to speed. I'll have continuing training and workshops and seminars and podcasts and workshops and articles that will be forthcoming on my Facebook, on my Twitter, and on my various emails that will go out to you and my website on this subject matter. I look forward to hearing your comments, your questions, and anything that you can bring to the table in reference to the new and exciting arena of short sales. Have a good day.